Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we are diving back into our Tell Me series by Charlotte Byrd. If you have not listened to the first four books in the series, those reviews are listed down below in the description section. Once you finish those, come and join us as we dive into book 5, which is called Tell Me to Fight. We start off with Nicholas. He's on an island. We don't know exactly where he is. But he's got a new name, whole new identity. So he's been sleeping with a bunch of women. And however, his mind is still stuck on Olive. Everything everyone does kind of reminds him when it comes to women, if they shrug a certain way, if they lean a certain way, like everything reminds him of Olive. So he can't get her out of his system. It sounds like he's trying to screw her out, but it's not working. So soccer's on, and when he looks up, because he's at a bar, he sees a wanted poster of his face. The FBI is looking for him. And then there's an interview that Art Hedison is doing. He goes to the bathroom, and he, of course, is like, what the hell is going on? Art did say, remember, we may look for you, you know, but it'll just be, nothing too dramatic. But now this is big time. Like, it's all over the news. And he wanted to try and bring somebody home tonight, but now since he's seen that, he's trying to get out of there. The bartender's name is Imogene. She knows him because he comes there so much. And she was like, "You're leaving already?" And he's like, "Yeah, something came up." So we find out that he is in Cape Calker, Belize. And he does really love it there. But when he looked online, he sees that this is even bigger than he thought. This is all over the internet. People doing podcasts about it. Like, this is a huge thing going on. So Art is doing this interview saying, he's a very charming, dangerous man, and they're really digging into the case about his ex-partner, saying that, he's the one that took him out. So he knows he needs to leave from here. He's hoping one day that he can come back. He's thinking the best place to go would be Mexico. He feels like it's big enough he can get lost there. So he plans on going to Merida, Mexico. He's trying to figure out exactly what made Art like kind of do this, like turn on him. But he's thinking what possibly happened is that maybe the FBI had something on Art, and so he had to turn on him in order to give them something. Sounds pretty feasible to me. So he gets into Mexico. His plan was to go to Thailand because he knows it's pretty difficult to find someone there. So he's going to get this nice big meal. He's flirting with the waitress. She's from Houston. Her name's Mallory. He gets an alert that the price, the ticket for his airplane ride didn't go through. Checks his accounts. He's got different ones. Some in the old name, some in the new names. All of them have been frozen. So he's only got like a few dollars on him. So thankfully he had US dollars and they were willing to take him, besides the pesos. They just charged him a surcharge, but he still had enough. So he goes upstairs to his room. He knows, he's got to get out of here because he doesn't have any money to stay for another night. It's just a whole mess. Well, then there's a knock at the door, and it's our girl Mallory. So she comes up, and they wind up screwing. And of course, the whole time he's thinking about Olive. We switch to Olive. She's in California. We don't know what part just yet. She loves it. California, to me, makes sense because when she was reading that diary, that's where her mother went. So this makes complete sense to me that she's there. She's gotten into a little routine. She jogs. She goes for swims. She absolutely loves swimming. She knows that when she gets a house of her own, she most definitely will have a pool. Um, Owen was using it at first when they got there, but he started drinking more and more. She would drink with him at first when they first got there, like celebratory, but she got tired of waking up with headaches, and he like keeps a beer in his hand. So she says something to him about this. He gets, of course, offended, as most alcoholics do, you know. And she's like, I'm not trying to be mean. I just don't want this to become a problem. Well, clearly it's already a problem. So it's like, what irks me with him is everything always has to be so fucking touchy. She can't say this, she can't say that. She has to be careful. Don't say this, it'll upset him. And it's like that's the way she used to have to live with the mom, who she thought was her mom. So I don't like that she has to do that. Um, she was about to say something super mean to him, but she didn't do it. He goes inside, and then he calls to her and he says, "Oh, you might want to come and see this." Owen has up the FBI most wanted list on TV. Of course, he's like, I told you he was awful. And the look she was given was one of concern. And she even says, to him, because, Owen's like ecstatic about this, right? He doesn't like the fact that she has this look of concern in her face. And she says to him, like, we did that together, you know? And Owen's just kind of like, well, he's just getting what he deserves, right? And Owen just couldn't believe that she really felt bad for him. And he kept saying, he's not a good person. And she doesn't feel that way about him. Yeah, he lied and stuff like that. But she's thinking now, but did he have a choice? Like, what position was he put in where he had to make those decisions? And of course, Owen doesn't like her being soft on him. And so he's like, you really are that fucking dumb. And of course, she gets pissed. Normally, she doesn't try and engage with him when he's drunk. But she's like, don't you dare talk to me like that. And then he wants to go, oh, I'm so sorry, Olive, I'm so sorry. And she's making excuses for him because she's thinking in her head, like, if he wasn't drunk, he wouldn't talk to her like that. But I'm like, he's called you fucking stupid before, and he was perfectly sober. So she's making excuses again for piss poor behavior. And this is why I can't stand her and I don't like her right now. I don't. Because Owen's been doing the same type of crap this whole time. And we get why he doesn't like him, but I'm sorry, I don't feel like it's fully about, oh, because I think he killed my ex-girlfriend. I don't believe that. I think it is because of how strongly he feels for Olive and the fact that Olive feels strongly for Nicholas, and he wants that affection. And that's why I feel like he hates Nicholas so fucking much. But it's just it's a mess. And with him drinking so much, that's not smart because he's gonna probably slip up and say something, that could screw him up. Like he's a problem. And I always felt like in reading the other books, like he will be the downfall. It's gonna be him. And I can't stand him, if you all can't tell. He annoys me so freaking much. So we find out that Olive, she's been trying to lose weight. She's changed her diet and everything. But nothing's really working. She's still stagnant at a certain weight. The neighbor suggested maybe it's a thyroid issue. And told her maybe she need to go see a doctor. She doesn't want to do that. So she's been making her green juices. And so a woman comes out of Owen's room. This is like the next day. The woman's name is Shelly. Owen met her at a bar the night before. She seems really nice. She asked Olive, would you mind making me one of those smoothies too? Not Charlotte. Olive was like, sure, no problem. And then she asked Olive, does he do this a lot? Bring women home? And Olive's like, no. We've been here for months. You're the first person he's brought here. So that makes the woman happy because I guess she really likes Owen. So Owen comes out, gives the woman a kiss and stuff. And so Olive is thinking like, okay, this is good. Like, he'll have somebody. Maybe he'll stop being so intense with me. So they're both free for that day because they don't work, neither one of them. The girl doesn't have to be in until 9 o'clock that night because she works at the bar. So then the girl wanted to hang out, and he's like, okay, sure. And then he asked Olive, do you want to join us? And I'm like, why would you offer that? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, something's not right with that. So I think he did it because he's trying to make her, seeing if maybe if he can pull the jealousy thing from her, if that will make, you know, Olive do something. Because when Olive walks off, when she turns around, Owen is just glaring at her with this intensity. So I'm like, yeah, he still wants Olive. He's just trying to figure out a way to get her attention. What he's been doing hasn't worked. We find out they're in Palm Springs. The reason they came here is because at the end of the file that she has read probably a million times by now, her mother lives 3.4 miles away from where she is. She hasn't told Owen that's why she wanted to come to California. She just kind of played up the whole palm trees, sunshine, all that type of great stuff. She didn't tell him because she didn't want to find something else for there to be contention about. So she feels like he would have found some kind of way to make it a problem. But see, that right there lets me know you're not that fucking great of a person. Because why would it bother you that I would want to be close to or try and find my biological mother? The fact that that person you think is going to make that shit about them means they're not any good. But you have risked so much just to keep this piece of shit in your life. That's the part that I do not get. Like, it makes no fucking sense. She goes hiking not too far from where she lives. She gets a FaceTime call from Sydney. Sydney, of course, wants to know how she's doing. Sydney doesn't know where she is in California. She just knows that she's in California. She knows it's probably not the wisest thing to talk to Sydney, but she doesn't believe that Sydney would ever tell on her. So they talk about Nicholas being on the news for taking out his partner, and she says he didn't do it. I know he didn't do it. Sydney, of course, is like, are you sure? You know? She's like, I am. So Sydney, let me go back. She doesn't tell Sydney all the information about Nicholas working for the FBI and all that informant stuff. So she just gave her just enough. Probably, and I think that's more so for her, to keep her safe, right? So if they do approach you, you can't say you know shit because I ain't told you shit, right? So I think that's probably why she's kept it that way. She comes back home and finds Owen in her fucking room with her mother's fucking file. She, of course, is like, why are you in my room? And he's like, I don't know. She's like, no, 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 no. That's not an answer. Why are you in my room? He goes, I guess I just wanted to know more about your mother. She loses it on him. And I was so happy and I was so proud of her. Um, he tries to say, oh, I'm sorry, but no, why would you be in her fucking space? And he tries to make her admit why she wanted to come out here. So it's like, now you're trying to fucking interrogate her and you the one in the goddamn wrong. You had no going into that woman's room. No right. And now you have gone through her personal stuff and now you're demanding to know information. I absolutely, when I read that, I was beyond furious. If I could have reached in the book and just snatched him around, I was like, the fucking balls of this dude. But you know what? He's so used to being able to disrespect her. He's used to it. And she doesn't do anything. She keeps allowing it. And that's why he keeps doing stuff. He's awful. He tries again to get her to admit why she really wanted to come to California. And she says, well, if you've read it, you already know. And he goes, but I want to hear you say it. I just can't stand him. Um, he's like, why couldn't you just tell me that? Like, do you think I wouldn't let you go meet her? Do you think I was going to fight you about it? She's like, I don't know. And so he says, like, this is the address. So he knows she's super close. He's thinking she's already gone to see her. She hasn't. She says, I'm afraid I'm not ready. I need more time. What more of? What it is that's holding me back, I don't know. I know I'm not ready. Again, why the fuck were you in this woman's robe? And then he goes back to the I'm so sorry bullshit. She winds up leaving. She's like, this is not working for her. She's sick of him. She's tired of him moping around. She's tired of all the drinking. You know, normal people start over. They have some type of job. They have something to do with themselves. Because they have the money that they haven't really had to do anything like that because money's not an issue for them. She knows that she's at a place that she can't do this with him anymore. She needs her own life, her own space. He has really violated her by going into her secret place, and he was just wrong. And there's no excuse. There's no I'm sorry. You knew what you were doing, but see, because you know she's a pushover, the normal thing is I can fuck up horribly. She's gonna forgive me, so I will call her a fucking idiot. I'll call her stupid. I will go in her space and violate because I know I can just say I'm sorry and she's gonna fucking buy it. And that's on and tuning and that's the problem when you keep allowing bad behavior. And he's just getting progressively worse and worse and worse. And now you're at a point where you can't even fucking take it. She's guilty too because you allow the behavior. So she leaves and then she comes back. He had set the table. He was making dinner. She goes to take a bath. They sit down. He apologizes again. She says to him, I think the problem is we don't have anything to do. I don't know what I want to do yet. And he didn't have a clue what he wanted to do. But she's like, basically, now you can go to college. You have a clean slate. You don't have a record. And he starts to cry. She goes to console. I don't feel sorry for him. Because everything with him to me is just a fucking ploy. So I don't have no sympathy for him. He realizes he can now do that. So now he's going to try and go to school. She doesn't know what she wants to do, but she's hoping, that him having this kind of realization will help them, go in a good direction. And so he says that, let's celebrate with some ice cream. So they're eating the ice cream. They're on the couch. She has some on her face, like right underneath her lip. She didn't get it when she wiped, so he wiped it from her. Before she knows it, he's kissing her. She's like, what are you doing? And he's like, what do you think? I love you. She's like, no, you're my brother. And he's like, no, I'm not your fucking brother. And he says to her, as soon as you get that through your skull, the better everything will be. So then he's trying to get between her legs, and he almost RAPED'd her. She kept telling him to stop. Finally, she was able to get from underneath him. He starts looking like a hurt puppy. She told him, I only see you as my brother. That is never going to change. And he says it's because you're in love with someone who's never going to be who's never going to be a good person, right? And she was like, I don't see him that way. She's like, and I don't see you the way that you want me to, that you're trying to force me to. And this is why I think he's fucking disgusting, because he can't stand the fact that he can't force her to feel what he feels. And that's a dangerous game, to try and force someone to feel something. First of all, you neglecting the whole idea that what she knows of you is as her brother. She doesn't view you in a romantic light. You've had this information since you were like 15 years old. So whatever you've been pining away for her, you've allowed to grow. And now I think it's at a point, I think it's obsession. Because the fact that you're gonna try and force her now is just beyond. So she's getting out of here. She packs a bag, heads to the garage. She has got to go. She cries. She winds up getting an Airbnb for a week. She falls asleep. Next morning, she goes hiking to one of the places that has an actual waterfall. So she's like, a waterfall in a desert. I've got to go see it. It's absolutely stunning, mesmerizing. She wants to jump off of the cliff, but she's too scared. Scared she might hit her head, and then there's no one there. And then there is this rowdy 50-year-old couple that comes up. The guy says something to her like, if you skinny dip, then I'll go in with you. And she's thinking in her head, like, how dare you say that to me? You know, give me that unwanted sexual advance. I personally, you all may think differently. I personally think you're pissed off at Owen. Owen violated you in more ways than one. And so now I think everything is on peak level with awareness, right? Like anything is going to make you feel that way. But that's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but that's just how I view it. Because someone saying, if you skinny dip, I'll do it too. I mean, they're there with their person. Yeah, maybe they did mean it in a derogatory manner, or maybe they saw that you was looking freaked out and they were trying to make it lighten the mood with you. You know what I mean? They didn't make an advance towards you. They weren't trying to do anything to you. So I just think she's stuck about what happened. And I'm not saying she's wrong for that, because that's a hell of something that happened to you, you know? That's a lot. She leaves and she decides that, you know what, she's going to find her mom. So she winds up driving to the address like the next day or later that day. Gets to the intercom. Whatever reason, even though she had looked up pictures of this place, she was still picturing herself just going up to a door, but there's a gate. So finally she gets in. She has to tell the person who her name is. And she says, I'm looking for Josephine Rose Reyes, or maybe it's Leopold now. And the woman says, well, what's your name? She didn't want to give it, but again, you really think somebody finna let you in here and you not giving your name? Like, come on. Like, get a grip. So she says her name's Olive Kearns. And so the gate opens. She goes in and she says, the maid says, let me go get Miss Jemison for you. A woman comes in. She's probably in like her mid 40s, but she looks like she's 35. They do this kind of sing and dance around each other. Um, Eventually, Olive shows her the file, and that's when Josephine breaks and starts crying, because there's a DNA test in there that shows this is your daughter. So she's like, oh my God, I've been looking for you for so long. She still hasn't asked, why did you give me up? They're having, again, these little pleasantries. She tells her how she met her husband at USC when she came out there. Josephine initially went to Santa Monica College, which is a community college, and then she transferred to USC, graduated, and the second year she was there, that's when she met her husband. And they've been married ever since. There's pictures all over the wall where they've been all over the world. Olive blurts out, what does your husband do? And after she said it, she realized, like, she hadn't even thought about maybe Josephine was the one that, could have the money. And Josephine says he works for me, or shall I say we work together. And then she felt bad for just assuming that. And then finally Josephine say, why don't you ask me what you came to ask me? She tells the story to Olive that Olive didn't know, which was when we were reviewing that last book, we know what happened to Danny Leopold. We knew that he died in a car accident. Well, she didn't know that part, so this is something new that she's finding out. We also find out that Josephine thinks her father had him killed. because apparently it was like someone pulled out in front of him intentionally, and someone went right into the driver's side, so she thinks it was set up. She doesn't have the proof, but this is her belief. So when she came out to California, she started to have contractions, and her family, her parents, they had put out everyone trying to find her, and so she was having complications with the pregnancy, and she wound up having to have an emergency C-section. So she was completely out. She wakes up, her mother and father are there. They're telling her that the baby died in birth. They didn't do a funeral. They say they don't do funerals for stillborns. She didn't believe it. But the evidence that they tried to present her with, it never just fully felt true to her. So when she was 18, she ran away again. She stayed in California, but she stayed under the radar, so they couldn't find her. Actually, I don't think she was 18. I think it was before she was 18. And she stayed under the radar. And then once she hit 18, she was safe because they couldn't make her come back to New York anymore. She worked in a library, saved up money, hired an investigator, and she at least found out that there was no stillborn. So that at least gave her hope. And then her mother got sick. And when she died, she went pretty quickly, but she was on a lot of medication. And that, of course, had her with loose lips. And so when she asked her about the baby, the mother told her the truth, which was that the baby never died. So then we also find out that the father, this little botched adoption, he was the one that put it together. The person that took it was never going to tell the child as long as the money kept coming every month. There was a picture that the mother kept as well, that had a picture of Olive when she was 5 years old. And Josephine still has the picture. So they're both crying. And then Olive asks, well, why didn't you come and find me if you knew I was still alive? So Josephine tells her, I only found out about you a year ago. That's when the mother was sick. So she hired a PR, but she hasn't been able to find anything within this past year. They didn't have anything really to go on except for that picture that the mother had that she had held on to for all these years. So they're crying and everything. And then Olive says, okay, I gotta go, because she doesn't want to leave, but she doesn't want to overstay or welcome either. And so they're supposed to meet up. The next couple of days, she gets canceled on by Josephine. And so this annoys her. And so maybe about 5 days later, Josephine reaches out to her. And Owen's been calling her, but she hasn't been answering the phone. She at first wasn't going to answer when Josephine called, but then she's like, she didn't pick up. But Josephine sent a text and said, I'm so sorry about canceling. I just had a lot of work to catch up on. Can we meet for lunch today? So she texts her back when and where. They meet up for lunch. She doesn't know, what's going on with Josephine, right? Like, she kind of vanished a little bit. So it's kind of like, well, what's going on? And she winds up asking her, what does she do for a living? Olive to Josephine. And Josephine was shocked. And she was like, you don't know who I am? And she's like, I figured with the information you had, you would have looked me up. And she's like, no, I don't know anything about what you do. Her mom is Lauren Hart. This is her favorite author. She is, of course, beyond mesmerized that this is her mother, right? And her mother tells her the journey behind her becoming a writer. So she went to school for English. I think she might have even gotten a PhD in it. I can't remember. She loves writing. That's her passion. And that's what she truly loves to do. And so at first she got a lot of rejection letters. And eventually she did this dystopian sci-fi series. And that kind of got her in. And she's really worked hard. And then freaking Olive blurts out, yeah, because you've been able to buy that huge house. Then she feels bad after she says it, because it sounds gross, but Josephine just laughs and she says, yeah, after a long time, we were able to do it. Um, and then Olive says, I'm sure your parents are proud of you. She says, I don't talk to them. She was like, I don't have anything to do with them. She only went back for the mom because she was about to die, but she has no contact with them like that. Um, she's like, I'll never take a penny from them. My siblings, they can have it all. Then Olive gets a call from Sydney. She tells Sydney everything that's been going on. Sydney turns away from the camera and she realizes something's going on. So she's like, what's happening? And Sydney's like, no, no. And Olive's like, no, 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 no. What is going on? She's like, I've talked enough. Talk to me. So she says her and James broke up. She found him cheating on her. So this is how this went down. So apparently, when James initially moved from California, it was after the breakup with his ex-fiance who had cheated on him, apparently. When he got to the island, they kept messaging each other. And then the ex-fiance wound up marrying somebody else, but her and James still communicated. At first, it was pretty friendly. Then it became sexual. And shall I say, Sydney walked in on James and the ex-fiance in her bed. I would have nutted up, I think. Yeah, that'll make me a little furious. Because you didn't have the decency to take the bitch to a hotel. You gonna fuck the bitch in my shit? Like, what? Like, it's bad enough you're doing it, but that just goes to show you some people just do shit. Look how sexually adventurous she is with this man, and yet he still wanted something that he wasn't supposed to have. I think it's just a human nature thing of wanting things you're not supposed to have, and you do stuff like this. Clearly, he was never over that fiance. That's who he wanted, and so that's who he's willing to always risk it all for. So when it's like that, it's like that. But he's disgusting. He ain't shit. Now I gotta kind of walk back on how harsh I was with Sydney in the last review, because I'm like, well, maybe that's why she felt how she felt with the mother liking him. Because she knows her mother likes probably no good people. So it's like, why do I think so highly of this person and my mom likes him? Like, he's probably a bad person. So I got to walk it back, That's what she more than likely felt. And I was like, damn, she was right. Because he ain't shit. So she's heartbroken. They're going to watch their favorite Netflix show via FaceTime. And that's what they wound up doing, like, for the rest of the evening. And I was like, oh, poor Sydney. I wish she could be out there with Olive, I really do. Because that would have been perfect for her, a new scenery. After a bad breakup, you want, you need a new scenery. And that would have been perfect for her. So that sucks. So she goes back to the house to get a necklace that Nicholas had got for her. She sneaks in, and while she's in the bathroom getting the necklace, she puts it in her pocket. Owen pops up at the fucking bathroom door. He's blocking her from getting out. He's like, where have you been? What have you been doing? Are you hiding out with Nicholas? She's like, Nicholas is gone. What are you even talking about? So he's so stuck on that. Finally, he lets her get by. And he's like, I fucking love you. Why can't you just believe that? She says, it's not that I don't believe it. I don't feel it. I don't see you that way. So she's preparing herself because she don't know what he's going to do. He almost RAPED'd her. And he was just blocking her from leaving out the bathroom. So she knows he's capable of anything at this point. So then he's all like, where are you going? You going back to your little love nest with Nicholas? Just absolutely obsessed with this man. So then we find out his dumbass was the one that called and told the FBI about the theft of the painting and that it was Nicholas. He has this psychotic, manic, laugh, and she tells him, I can't live with you anymore. I don't want to live with you anymore because he's just awful. I've known this all along, you know? And so basically, when he did that, it caused an internal affairs investigation, which is what um, made Art turn on Nicholas. I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what Nicholas thought might have happened. He just didn't know who was the person that did it. So she's furious. She kept saying, we helped with that job. He's like, but that's not what I told them. He goes, he killed my girlfriend. He killed his partner. What more proof do you need? And he says, he was about to take you away from me. So she was just so flabbergasted. She was like, he didn't betray. Hold on, let me say this correctly. Nicholas didn't betray her the worst. She realized it's been Owen this whole time. She just kept screaming, how could you do that? And he set us up with all this money. He's like, I don't care about that. She starts punching the shit out of him. I loved reading that part. And then she leaves, and on her way out, she says, you stay out of my fucking life. She winds up going back to the same place where she had lunch with her mom because she really liked her drinks. And she's like, I need to go out. I need to be out. So she had to ask for some ice for her hand. And then she has some drinks. She's feeling the bartender. They're making a little connection. She winds up taking him back to her Airbnb. They wind up fucking. And just like Nicholas's ass, she keeps the lights dark. And she wants it that way so she can imagine that it's Nicholas. I say, look at them. Both of them right here can't let go of the other one. I'm starting not to be upset with her because, I was very furious with Olive's last book. I'm starting to not be as furious with her because she's seeing Owen for who he is and she's trying to disconnect herself from him. So she's working her way back. We switch back to our boy Nicholas. He spent the night with the Mallory girl. He's now trying to figure out what he's got to do. He's thinking this might be a blessing in disguise because with the accounts being froze, it means that they would have known how to track him all along. So they were gonna be able to track him no matter where he went all over the world. So this might actually work out to his benefit. He takes Mallory's phone and he calls someone named Big Dipper. Big Dipper is in Vegas. He's done a lot of favors for him in the past. Apparently Big Dipper was on the Fed's radar and he got him off of their trail, off of him. So he's like, I need money. Do you have any work for me? The guy's like, I don't really know about that. You're really hot right now. He's like, call me back. I'll see what I can find out. I'll ask around. Goes back to the hotel room. His face is on the screen. The Mallory girl knows what's up. She jumps and she doesn't acknowledge the fact that she's seen him wanted on the screen. She just frantically tries to get the hell up out of there. So he asked if she could loan him a couple dollars. She gave him $80. He's like, I'll get it back to you soon. She said, don't worry about it. She is trying to get the hell up out of Dodge. He doesn't know if she's going to call the hotline to try and turn him in, but he knows he can't stay around here. So he winds up wandering around Meridia. And about 3 o'clock, he calls Big Dipper back, and Big Dipper goes, I got something for you, but you're not going to like it. Here's what the deal is. He's got to bring a buttload of meth into the U.S. He's got to look clean cut, something that makes him, he's got to look like a family man. And something that will make the patrol not even think twice about needing to search his vehicle. The job's going to pay $150,000. Nicholas is like, for what you're asking me to move, that street value is like $3 million. He's like, I need at least $250 and a new identity. and not some dead person, like an actual new identity. So Big Dipper goes up to 175,000 in new identity, but that's it. So he's got to get to Tijuana within 72 hours. He goes to a salon and gets his hair dyed like dirty blonde, shaves his facial hair, super clean cut, sends the picture to Big Dipper. He's like, so this will be for his new passport. And Big Dipper goes, yeah, there's a change. Apparently, actually, no, they were supposed to go through Mexico City, but there was a change, and now they got to go through Tijuana. So Tijuana is more patrolled. So this is really scary at this point. But Big Dipper's like, listen, you got 72 hours to get there. So on a bus, he goes. He gets to Tijuana, um, calls Big Dipper. He's like, you're going to meet Dorothy at the Starbucks. Hang up. Doesn't even know what the damn woman looks like because he doesn't give him any more information. So he goes to the restroom, comes back out. He sees someone who he thinks is Dorothy. They go outside. They check for wires, check for phone stuff. So both of them were lied. Like they were like told that the other person was going to have all the details. There are no details. They basically got to make this stuff up. Um, they just pretty much got to figure out a way to get over the border. They are going to be provided an RV. Nicholas kind of freaks her out when he says about, if we get caught, this is a lot of years we'd have to do. And she wasn't really aware of that. And she's like now aware after what he said. And now she's going, I don't know if I can do this. They get to the RV, but now he's got to persuade her to do this. Since he freaked her out before. So he's made up a backstory very easily. It rolls off his tongue. They've been dating for a while. Um, she wants to get married. He doesn't want to be tied down. He's not a cheater, but he doesn't feel like a piece of paper should define who he loves. And then says, they live in the RV. They travel a lot. They're coming back into the States because her mom fell again. He's got a good story. So this does ease her mind. He winds up asking her basically, why are you doing this? We find out her husband has liver cancer, stage 3. So they're wanting to do some experimental treatments. Those things are expensive. They've already put a second mortgage on the house just for the chemotherapy that he went through. So this is like a great option to get money fast. So they both need this to work. And he's hoping even more so for her it works because she really needs this. They get across the border because when the agent comes up, he asks for their passports. They give it to him. They start talking about their travel. Nicholas picks a fight about when they get back. She's going to go see her mom, but he's not. The dog sniff, but they don't find anything. The guy's like, all right, you guys can go. So they go to a Walmart, go inside, shop. When they come out, people will have gotten the product, and then they're just supposed to be able to get their money. So now it's a waiting game. They leave out of the store. They go to the bus stop. The RV's gone. The girl's panicking because she's like, oh my gosh, what if they don't pay us? He's concerned about this too, but thankfully the same guys that they saw like watching them when they pulled up in the RV comes back to the bus stop, gives a duffel bag to each one of them, so they got the money. Nicholas is going to go buy a used car. She was going to call a cab and have it take her all the way to San Diego. He's like, I'll give you a ride. Just come with me. So he does. He drops her off, and then he's like, where am I going? He calls Big Dipper. He was hoping he would get his new ID. Big Dipper's like, I don't have it. The guy that does it, his wife is having a baby, so it's going to be a few days. He was thinking he was going to be able to fly out tonight. But Big Dipper said, it's too hot right now. Like, you just need to find somewhere and lay low. So when he looks himself online, Big Dipper's not lying. It's total chaos. Like, it's doubled the coverage than what he initially saw online. And he decides, he knows where Olive is. He doesn't know her address, but he remembers the mom's from that file. And he knows that Olive is going to be in Palm Springs. So Buddy decides he's going to go to the address that he remembers. He waits for a few hours, nothing he doesn't see. He winds up leaving. We switch back to Olive. She's going over to meet the husband and kids. Josephine has young kids, like 4 and 2 years old. Um, so she, of course, is super nervous. Her and the kids automatically click. The husband wasn't there at first. He was in the office. But when he came out, he was so apologetic. He's like, I'm so sorry. I was tied up on a call. Gives her a hug. He was so happy to meet her. He was like, she always wanted to find you and all this type of stuff. And it made her heart melt. She cried, and it was a beautiful little moment. She doesn't fully tell them about her life because she doesn't want to make them, her, Josephine in particular, feel bad. Um, she's about to leave because she, again, doesn't want to overstay her welcome. But Josephine's not ready for her to leave. And she's like, can't you just stay a little bit longer? We can have more drinks on the patio. She's like, we're going to put the kids to bed. You might wait, you want to go outside and wait on the patio? So she goes outside on the patio and she hears, aren't you going to introduce me to your new family? To your brother? She thinks she's crazy, but she's not. It's Owen's ass. He's there in the dark. And she's like, you need to leave. He's like, why haven't you been returning my phone calls? She said, because I'm mad at you and I don't want to talk to you. He's like, no, that's not okay. And he pulls out a whole fucking gun, throws her down, tells her that she is going to be his tonight. And if she doesn't go through with it, he's going to kill her new family. Now that I did not see coming. Because that is just beyond. He is determined to have her. And I think it's because he knows that Nicholas loves her. She loves Nicholas. He wants to try and break that some type of way. It's like, even if you fuck her, it won't break that affection. And it's like, they're not even together, and he's completely consumed with this. She thought at the house the last time that it wasn't just alcohol, that he probably was, on some crystal meth. But she doesn't want to say it because, again, she's not trying to upset him. And again, that what irks me is she has to watch everything she says, because this is how her life was when she was with that mom. She's got to be careful not to offend the people that treat her the worst. Absolutely crazy. I can't stand it. He pins her down. He's got the gun. He's telling her she has to kiss him back. So at first, she gives in to buy herself some time. When she doesn't see the gun in his hand, she headbutts him, but he's stronger and he pins her down still. Of course, then he starts to choke her. Damn near makes her pass out. He tells her, don't you ever do that again. And then he proceeds to try and RAPED her again. She keeps feeling around for something, and thankfully she felt that gun. She snatched it, put it in his stomach, pulled the trigger. So we find out that after she shot him, she still had the gun pointed at him. Josephine and Wallace came in, and they told her, we've called the police. They're on their way. He can't hurt you anymore. The police questioned her. They want to know what happened. She told him she can't protect him. You protect him, you're going to screw yourself. You going to jail. And so it's going to look like you shot somebody for no reason. So when she takes off, that gray blanket we see in the movies that they put over people after an accident, she has bruises all over her. She didn't even realize she had that much on her. So they're asking, who is he? Is this your boyfriend? She said, no, he's my brother. There, of course, is this gasp from everyone. She tells him he knew it for a long time, and I just recently find out. And then they ask for his name. She doesn't want to say it. Josephine takes her aside and is like, why are you protecting him? He almost tried to take you out of here. Like, you need to tell. So they know his name is Owen Kearns. She's Olive Kearns. So she winds up telling the story, the parts that she can. She goes to the ambulance. She screams at him, why did you do that? Why would you do that? He says, because if I don't have you, then I don't have anything. I don't have a life if I don't have you. So, again, selfish trash. She just starts crying, tears away from the ambulance. She was going to go home, but they were like, no, stay in the guest room. And they were like, we already made it up for you. She agrees. She takes a shower. Of course, she's like, why did Nicholas have to leave? Why wouldn't he stay and fight? But she's a lot to fucking deal with, okay? And the shit that she was putting through him through on behalf of that damn brother was so unnecessary just for this to be the fucking outcome. It's like, this is why I wanted him to just take the fucking money, Nicholas, and run. Fuck them. Because they were too much. And again, all these secrets, but bitch, you got secrets too. But he was supposed to tell you his secrets, but you could keep yours. You know, I can't. But that brother is just, he's sick. He fell in love with her, I think, when he was 15. I think he's been in love with that girl since he was a child, a teenager, and I think it turned into obsession. And I think when she was writing him, he was getting the attention from her, and it was like, if no one else is in the picture, I can have her. But even when someone was out of the picture, he still couldn't have her, and he could not reconcile that. And so I'm like, I don't care. I don't care where he ends up, but that's somebody she honestly should never see or speak to as long as she lives, because he is awful. She winds up leaving early the next morning, but she does leave a note telling them thank you so much. She's going to stay in touch, but she just needs some time alone. She just wants to try and figure some stuff out for herself. She drives for a little while. She's thinking about the fact of how everything ended with Nicholas, what she could have said, what she should have allowed him to tell her. So she regrets a lot. She's missing him a lot. Not being able to contact him is a lot harder than she ever thought it would be. She winds up somewhere by the water. She sees a surfer. She gets a call from Josephine. She considers not answering, but then she answers it and she says, I'm so sorry. I left so abruptly. I think, what's his name? Wireless or Brian? Or Byron. I can't remember. We're just going to call her Josephine's husband. Let's just say that. The kids, she tells them, let them know I'll see them soon. Josephine is like, that's fine, no problems. She sounds like there's something else she want to say. So she says, Josephine, what else is going on? And Josephine says, Nicholas called. She, of course, is like, Nicholas? And Josephine's, yeah, he says he wants me to give you this number. It's only going to be good until noon Pacific time. So she hangs up the phone, and then she's not sure if she should call. I'm like, girl, your ass been tripping about missing this man. You might as well fucking call. So, of course, she calls. They talk. He asks how she's doing, how everything's going with their mom. She tells him she's so happy. She glosses over the situation with Owen because she refuses to let him ruin another moment for her. And I'm like, yeah, that's good, because honestly, I think if she had told him what would have happened, I think he would have killed Owen. And I believe he would have did it and vanished. And I really do believe he would have done that. So they both admit that they've been thinking about each other a lot. He says, I have to cut all ties when I disappear, but I just keep thinking about you. She, admits again, I'm having the same problem. And he asks her, are you up for a long road trip? So she's headed east. She's gone through Utah, Idaho. I don't know where Nicholas is, but she's headed to see him. She sees a little kitten when she is at the Motel 6. And a little gray kitten, she scoops it up, names it Solly. And she went to the convenience store, got it some food and stuff like that. And she's taking the kitten with her. They're heading east. So Hungry Horse Reservoir in Montana is where she goes. This is where Nicholas is. She gets nervous when she sees him, tries to walk away, but because his back was faced away from her. But then he heard when she stepped on a twig, and that made him turn around. She lies and says that she wasn't leaving. She was going to check on her pet. And so he goes and sees the cat, and he loves the cat as well. He's running. Well, he's living in an RV. Not the same one, because remember that one's gone. He rented this one at the place, and shows her around. He's like, yeah, it's just temporary, and he says, I can't stay. I'm gonna have to leave. I'm gonna have to go. They talk a lot. She stays and eats. He puts on some garlic bread. She makes a salad. They have great conversation. Um, she tells him everything. I'm assuming everything she tells him. Then it's getting late. It's about 9 o'clock. She was gonna drive back into town to get a motel, but he's like, it's too dark. Just stay here. She's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. He says, I'm not gonna make any moves on you. I'll stay outside in the tent. I do that a lot when I go hiking. Of course, in her mind, oh my gosh, she's been hiking too. She wants to ask him, have you been, um, like when you go on hikes, do you think of me as much as I think of you and stuff like that? And he just says, but she doesn't ask. And he says, you can sleep in here. And oh, this is the most important thing I forgot to say while they were having their dinner in the little dinette area. He tells her that he loves her. He told her, he should have been told her, but he's known ever since like a couple days after they spent together, he knew he was in love with her. But growing up, he never heard it. And so it's not something he says. But he knows it was stupid. He knows that he'll always love her, you know? And she doesn't say anything back. And he tells her that's okay. She doesn't have to. And I'm sitting there going, but you did all that bullshit and caused all that fucking chaos because he wouldn't tell you he loved you first. He says it, and now you dumbfounded and don't know what to say. This is when she starts to irk me again. Oh my gosh. I'm like, girl. So he winds up coming inside for a drink because they were awakened by the coyotes and stuff. It scared the little kitten. He comes inside, gets his drink of water, but he's not really trying to leave. She doesn't want him to leave. Then they wind up kissing. In between kisses, she tells him, I love you too. I loved you for so long. And that's part of the reason why I took the trip, because I wanted to tell you that face to face. So then, they have this nice hard fuck. He's her pussy hard, and they fuck hard, and he collapses on top of her. The next morning, he makes her some breakfast. They keep saying, I love you to each other. And they're like, you know what? We should have been, saying this to each other. Such wasted time. He's like, we were immature and dumb. And she's like, you know what? Well, what now? He's like, well, we can go for a hike. I know a place you would love. So she's like, great. So they go inside. They're about to fuck again. And then there's a boom, boom, boom on the door. Bust open. FBI. They're both naked. They haul him out, naked in handcuffs. He gets in the back of the car. And he's wondering, did Olive turn me in? And that's how the book ends. And so next week is the finale, the final book in the series. And it is called Tell Me to Lie. And we're going to dig into that one. What did you guys think? This book had a lot of twists. That Owen thing, it's like shocked but not shocked, but shocked is how I would characterize that. That was a lot. Tell me what you guys think. Drop down in the comment section and let me know. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available, and the links are going to be available down below in the description section. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you share the videos. And as always, thank you for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.